Dylan Davis, Delaware Gazette.
Will, obviously you talked about growing up in Pennsylvania and growing up into country. Have you had a chance to reflect on the fact that you're going to be the starting quarterback at Ohio State in the Rose Bowl? Has that dawned on you yet, or are you just kind of focused on it?
Yeah, it is cool to think about, but kind of where I'm at, like this is where we expected to be, and this is coming here to Ohio State. I expected to be in this position, and this is when it really starts. This is crunch time here, and I obviously, yes, it's surreal, and I have to appreciate every opportunity that I get here, and I'm just blessed to be in this position that I am. But we expected to be here, and we're excited. It's an unbelievable opportunity we have in front of us, and for me, being like you said, a kid who watched the Big Ten, watched the Rose Bowl every year, and I remember my band from my high school going out to the Rose Bowl in Pasadena, and that was like a big deal. And it's something I always dreamed of, playing in this game. So it's a pretty unbelievable experience. God has blessed me in a multitude of ways, and I'm just very thankful.
Dave Biddle, 24/7 Sports.
Will, you've had a lot of good games in your career, but is the Tennessee game perhaps the best performance you've had personally when you look at the stakes of the game and how well you played and they're the number 8 defense in the country? When you add it all up, is that maybe the best you've played in your career?
I think I played well enough for us to get the win, and that's all that matters. And at this time of the year, you got to be playing your best ball. And I felt like I was making pretty good decisions with the football. Obviously, it wasn't perfect. It's never going to be perfect, but I felt pretty good about my performance. But I think we're gonna need more down the stretch. So can't be satisfied.
Don Taberry, WBNS.
Well, what's the mood of the club? I mean, you guys had hoped for this shot to get another crack at these guys. Now it's happening on such a huge stage, and the stakes are so big. What's the mood of the club right now, getting another shot at these guys?
Excited, man. Excited and ready. I said, the moment we were walking off that field, we're going to see these guys again, whether it was, in the Big Ten or here. And here we are, man. We knew we were going to get another crack at these guys. It's hard to beat a team twice, and we're hungry. We're ready for this opportunity. I'm just so fired up that God blessed us with a second chance at this thing, because in life you don't get a lot of second chances. So it's a blessing, and we just gotta not let it pass us by.
Adam King, WBNS.
Talk about second chances. I'm sure you've thought about that play over and over again with the 1 second left. How much do you put all that out of your mind? How much do you lean back on that game compared to knowing this is a completely different team than you saw back then?
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it. It's like, how much do you focus on that but not let it affect you? I still have nightmares about that play. I still run it over in my head. What could I have done better? And I get a chance to, go out there and right the wrong from that game. And you don't get second chances a lot in life. It just doesn't happen. So like I said, I'm thankful that we even get a chance to go out there and play these guys again. And really has nothing to do with me, man. It's about this team, and the way that we lost that game. It still hurts. It still hurts all of us. So we're excited for another crack at these guys. We'll keep it in the back of our heads. It's a new game. We're both very different teams than we were back then. But that's definitely hasn't left my head.
Spencer Holbrook, Letterman Row.
How much have you and G connected on chemistry on the field the last few weeks? It seems like you're starting to find him pretty regularly, and he's starting to make more of an impact as the season goes on.
Yeah, man, he's doing a heck of a job, and G's one of those guys that's just, he could go out there and have 0 catches and be perfectly fine. He's just one of those team guys. Really good player. I mean, unbelievable player. But sometimes he gets overshadowed by some of the other talent in the room. It's actually his birthday today. Shout out G, happy birthday. It's my guy though, man. Like we've gotten so close this year, and just we've bonded on a lot of different things. He's been so good for me in my faith walk. Finding the Lord, and he's been a really, really great influence on me on and off the field this year, and definitely down the stretch here we've become pretty close, and I think, it's showing in terms of, chemistry on the field.
Matt Murphy, 24/7 Sports.
Will, going into the Tennessee game, you guys obviously have heard stuff. You talked about it when we were in here, coming out of that Michigan game. You walk out, you see the Tennessee fans. There's just a lot of motivational factors. Obviously, you want to win this, you want to win a national championship, but how do you keep that same kind of edge mentally that you had in that Tennessee game to give that kind of offensive performance in this game?
Yeah, that's the challenge, man, is keeping that edge. And I think we play well when we have that underdog, kind of chip on our shoulder mentality. And that's what we came out with last game. And that's the challenge is, how do we not listen to any of the good stuff right now because, the same people that are patting us on the back were, beating us down 2 weeks ago. So you just got to remember that and remember to not eat any of the sugar and just, keep our heads down and keep grinding and keep having that same edge and that same mentality. And it really starts with how we practice, I think.
Tom Moore, Buckeye Huddle.
When Jeremiah is bracketed, Chip talked about the fact that that's really you are the one who kind of takes advantage of that. That's not like a play calling thing, that's really you. So when you see, hey, they've got a couple guys over there, what does that do for what you see on the rest of the field and what your decision-making process is?
Yeah, anytime, a defense has to put two guys over one, I mean, it's either creating matchups elsewhere or giving you numbers in the box. Whatever it is, you gotta be able to work with it and see it, and I wouldn't be surprised if people are gonna start bracketing number 4. I'd probably do it too, but you can't forget about 17 and 2 and 88, and I mean shoot, we got guys elsewhere, so it's if you try to take one of them out of the equation, then we got other dudes that are gonna step in and make plays too. So I mean, and that's the thing. I mean, you can double him and he'll still go and make some plays. So. That's all part of the chess game, and like I said, playing a team twice becomes even more of that, back and forth chess game. How are we gonna scheme them up and vice versa, and but at the end of the day, it all comes down to execution and finding the matchups where we can and taking advantage of what they give us.
David DeGuzman, WCMH.
Hey, well, you talked a lot about momentum in the playoffs. What kind of an advantage does that give for a team like yours against a team that hasn't played since the Big Ten championship?
Yeah, I can't speak for them because they obviously have had a little more time off, but in terms of us, I think playing that first game did give us a little bit of momentum and feeling good going into this next game. And if I was coming off of 4 weeks of rest, I don't know, it'd be a little weird coming out here and playing the first game. But we said we wanted to get that first one and then get this ball rolling from there and keep this thing going. And I think I can't speak for them. I don't know, but we feel good, about where we're at.
Kevin Noon, Buckeye Huddle.
Yeah, Will. Is Jeremiah always open? Because Jeremiah thinks Jeremiah is always open.
Yes, he is pretty much. They got to put like 3 or 4 guys over him for him to not be open. Yes, he's unbelievable, man. He makes some pretty crazy plays and can do some great things off the line of scrimmage, and then when the ball's in the air, he goes and gets that thing. So I mean, he's special.
Austin Ward, the podcast.
Well, this isn't specific to the last play of the Oregon game, but when you're talking about a rematch and a second shot, how many times do you think you watched the duration of the first matchup as you're doing your film preparation? Maybe that was 2 weeks after the game as well with the off week, but also now time to prepare for Wednesday.
Yeah, more times than I can count, man. We got the game playing in the facility here, so nobody's forgot about it. I watched it quite a few times that bye week afterwards. How could I fix it? And then at the same time, you want to flush it and get away from it. But now, that they're back, they're the squad we're playing. It's like I have watched it and it hurts me because I'm like, man, like there were so many opportunities for us to win that game, and looking back at it, it's like, man, we just didn't play our best ball that day, and it makes you excited, because we got another chance at it, and like I said, you don't get a lot of second chances in life, and God's blessed us with one, and so we got to make sure we take advantage of it, and it's a hell of a team, man. I mean, Oregon's a great team. They do some really good stuff, man, and it's not gonna be easy, but we got to go in there and do our thing and take what they give us and impose our will, because that's the only way we can do it from here on out.
You said they played 6 other games since then. in, so they probably changed. The personnel's gonna be different. Birch back out there. What's the balance for you prepping where you can watch yourself against them or the other 6 games that they played since then? What's the right equation, breaking that down?
I don't know if I have that answer. You know, when I'm watching film, I'm watching a bunch of different film, and you know, our game is one of the games they played, so I'm going to be watching that a bunch, and then also watching the other games they played because, you know, they have changed a little bit, and we've changed a little bit, and you know, nobody's just going to stay the same every year, every week. You're upgrading. You're trying to become a new version of your team. So we got to, you know, evaluate where we're at, where they're at, and see what the best method of trying to figure that out is.
We got time for a couple calls from the World Wide Web, from the Zoom cast. We'll go to Oregon writer James Crapia. James?
Well, you were certainly quite effective passing against them. What does make their corners effective, though? They're both 5'10". That's relatively small compared to your receivers. What makes them pretty effective at corner?
I think they're very athletic, and they're not as physical as some of the other corners we played against. You know, they're not trying to like put their hands on you at the line, but they're very good shadow guys, and they stay with guys, and they stay over top of dudes, and they don't like to get beat over the top, and I don't think they get beat very often. You know, obviously they're going against their playmakers every day, which they got some fast dudes over there. You know, I think they're both great players. I think Sevens, I played against him when he was at Oklahoma State. I think he's a good player. He's solid. They're both solid players, but I think we got an advantage physically a little bit that we need to take advantage of, and make sure that we don't let them just stick all over us. And I'm not worried about that, but they got good players, and we're gonna have to show up and win our one-on-ones.
Let's go to Cameron Teague Robinson from The Athletic.
Hey, Will, I think it was a little earlier in the presser you said that obviously you guys have changed. You guys are a different team, but for you, how are you different since that Oregon game?
Yeah, I think you try to evolve every week, and you try to learn from the good things and from the bad things. And I don't know if I could say one thing about where I've gotten better at, what I've gotten better at. Maybe my completions, just trying to take what the defense gives me, trying to get smarter with that, with my decision making as the year's gone on, and just getting more comfortable in the system, I think is another part of it. I don't think there's one thing I can necessarily put my finger on, but just trying to learn from the good and from the bad, and evolving every single week.
We have one more Zoom call. Joe Reedy, Associated Press.
Well, what's it been like having Chip Kelly as your offensive coordinator, and just how has the relationship developed and maybe improved during the year?
It's been really good, man. He's a super bright guy, run game, pass game. I mean, he's coached, some of the best players that I've, grew up watching. And, I think just getting to work with him and just getting to be on the same page with him about a lot of things. The more that this year has gone on, we've kind of just, I feel like we're in sync right now pretty damn well. And, we both kind of see things the same way sometimes, but then we're able to, have that healthy discussion of, what do you like here? What do you not like here? I think our relationship has just gotten better and better as the year has gone on. I've thoroughly enjoyed my time with him and working with him, and I think we've had a good time with it, and we want to finish this thing the right way.
Is there a quarterback that he coached that you liked or took after?
I wouldn't say necessarily one of them, but I did grow up when I was an Eagles fan, and he was the coach of the Eagles. So I've seen him watch. He's brought up clips in the quarterback room of some of the Eagles stuff. So that was pretty cool. I wouldn't say there's one quarterback I emulate my game after necessarily, but it was cool kind of the first time, and I was like, oh damn, he coached the Eagles back in the day. That's pretty cool.
Got time for just a couple more questions. Stephen Means, Cleveland.com.
Maybe I'm making too much of this, but I think on Jeremiah's second touchdown, I think before the snap, you looked over there a couple of times. I don't know. Can you just walk us through what you were seeing, and did that play just ultimately turn into, oh my God, he's one-on-one covered with one safety, I'm throwing it up?
Yeah, so on that play, I'm looking at where the safety is, and if the safety gets over top of him, I'm not going to throw it to him. If he's not over top of him, I'm going to throw it to him. And he didn't get over top of him. So I was just making sure that they were crazy enough to leave him one-on-one, and they were. So.
And final question, Bill Rabinowitz, Columbus Dispatch.
Kind of along those lines, I mean, when you see him in man coverage, one-on-one, is it almost like automatic, I'm throwing to him, it's an easy position?
If we got it called, yeah. Yes, pretty much. I mean, there's quite a few routes where, you know, if it's an X isolation or a one-on-one concept, and if we have one-on-one with him, or really, you leave any of our receivers one-on-one, and it's pretty hard to guard.
And Mecca's a very talented receiver, Carnell, Brandon, but Jeremiah just seems like on a different level than anybody, especially as a freshman. I mean, do you guys have that appreciation, like, oh man, this guy is special when he's a freshman?
Yeah, I mean, I think you forget about it a lot. When you're around it every single day, you kind of forget that the kid was in high school a year ago. He just doesn't. You just around him, you don't feel like he's a high school kid. You don't feel like he's an 18-year-old, 19-year-old. Like he's just mature beyond his years, and yeah, he's special, man. He's different. I've never seen a kid his age. I've really never seen anyone be able to do some of the stuff that he's able to do. So, I've only been here for 12 months or whatever, but yeah, he can do some pretty unbelievable stuff.
Will, thank you very much.
Thank you guys. Go Bucks.